Hello.
Hello.
Aye, I never know how to start these things, you know.
I know.
We're going to finally rank these albums because about 3 of you asked for that, so we're going to do it now.
For all 3 of you that are curious, and I would like to preface this before we get started, that I am not happy about my list, and that I don't know how to make myself happy about it, because there comes a certain point about halfway through the list that I don't know where to put them. But then again, at the top of the list, it's actually quite clear cut for me. But right in that middle spot is where the sparks are going to fly.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Yes.
With that said, do you want to give us your bottom pick?
The bottom pick, and I think I'm going to speak for all of us here, and probably everybody in the internet land as well, is the self-titled debut.
What?
Right? That is the worst album. But I have some thoughts. I think that there was a lot going against them at that point. They'd lost 2 of their founding members. Bear in mind they're only like 21 or something like that at this point, 21, 22.
Sure.
They'd lost 2 of their founding members. They were working with a producer that had an opposite goal to what they had. The producer apparently wanted to create like 80s commercial success,
yeah.
Which at the time was just never going to gel with what they were going with. But yes, the songwriting is a lot weaker than what it would become. However, I think some of the songs in there still do have merit, and I think for that merit you can find that in the demo that they did with Hillel and Jack Irons. Some of those early songs that were demoed, it's like that's the intensity that they were coming at it with. And I think that's where those songs really shine, is in that demo tape that they did.
Do you have a favourite song or a least favourite song from that album?
I think quite easily the best song on the album is True Men, Don't Kill Coyotes, or Grandpappy Do Plenty, which is an instrumental and is the most out of left field for what else has been on the album. That one song is amazing,
yes.
But it sounds like a different band. It sounds like Joy Division or something like that. So I think, funny enough, bookending the album, I think True Men and Grandpappy Do Plenty are the 2 best songs on the album, closely followed by Green Heaven.
Weak Link?
You Always Sing the Same.
Of course.
And
that should be like exempt,
as a song?
Yeah.
You Always Sing the Same if we even count that as a song. And again, I think you guys are probably going to talk about this. Mummy Where's Daddy is hard to listen to in 2026.
Yeah.
And it's been hard to listen to since 1984, by the way. I think I've said enough. I think there's hints at the good stuff that's to come if you can peel back the layers and see why it sounded the way it did. But you guys go ahead.
Yeah, same for me. The first album, by far the worst. True Men Don't Kill Coyotes probably is my favourite overall. That's one of the songs I can actually go back to on the album. I'd say Baby Appeal is one that it stands out as one of the better ones, as well as Green Heaven and all that as well. I do get a bit of guilty pleasure out of Police Helicopter out in LA. Is like they're a bit more unique, but they do kind of work for me as well. Mummy Where's Daddy is by far my worst on the album as well. And Why Don't You Love Me I think is quite difficult to get through as well. So
I find it as an album, for an album that's like 32 minutes long, it feels like it goes on forever. It's like this is a really long song, because I've been trying. I was going to say I've been listening to it a lot recently. I've been trying to listen to it a lot. I get a few tracks in and I'm like, I am sick of hearing this style of music. It's very samey. It's
fatiguing to listen to.
It's very fatiguing to listen to.
Yeah.
The delivery, when it's not cringy lyrics, it's quite awkward, strange delivery.
Yeah.
And Anthony Kiedis is no stranger to that. But sometimes it's like interesting. It's kind of just monotonous.
Yeah.
In its delivery. But that said, I do agree. True Men Don't Kill Coyotes is definitely a high point. Like when you play that song, and obviously it's the first track, it sets quite a good precedence for the band going ahead. But it quickly falls off for me. And that's all I've got to say about that. I can't really say anything more other than I agree with both of you on that, especially with the Mummy Where's Daddy and everything. There's some catchiness to it, but it's completely lost with the lyrical content and delivery. It's just any melodic quality is lost.
Yeah,
with the vocals and such. Yeah,
I agree.
Perfect.
Cool. Second album, we're going right in line here onto the Chili Peppers' second album, Freaky Styley. I think that is the second one on the list for me. I think the saving grace of this album is having Hillel back in the band. They're clearly so much more comfortable with Hillel in the band. The songwriting is starting to improve by that point, as in the craftsmanship of the songs and things like that. Like Jungle Man, that's a great opening song. Yeah. I think it's still telling though that I think the high point of the album is the cover of Sly Stone. If You Want Me to Stay, that's where I think having the right producer helped them as well, because it was George Clinton that I think pushed them to do that song and kind of pushed them out of their comfort zone. But yeah, that for me is by a margin the best song on the album, and it just so happened to be written by Sly Stone. But I think it's a very good interpretation of the song. And I have also always had a soft spot for Gertle the Turtle, just because I think it's amusing and has a really cool guitar riff. Yeah, but I think we're just seeing a natural bit of progression from the first album into the second album. Things are starting to kind of just state a bit better, and I think definitely having Hillel back is a big positive in that album. Not that Jack Sherman, who played guitar for the first album, is a bad guitar player, just didn't gel with the band, which they've spoken about innumerable times.
Yeah. And I'd be the exact same as well. Freaky Styley, it's an incremental difference from the first album. It's definitely, I'd prefer it to the first one, but only very slightly. I feel like Jungle Man is probably my favourite overall. That's a good intro. The biggest thing for me with this album is that the cringy lyrics, I think, this album's the worst offender for that sort of thing. I mean, you've got Catholic Schoolgirls Rule, Sex Rap and Black Eyed Blonde are all in there, so...
I wasn't going to bring that up, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you didn't, I was going to, because I was listening to Freaky Styley today as well, and I was just thinking, like, everything you guys are saying is what I've got my notes, like, the best song on the album is a cover, and that says a lot about the band at the time.
Yep.
But you can see a talented and good band starting to shine through that.
Yeah.
You can see, and I also mentioned Gertle the Turtle as well. It's fun. I love the guitar riff on it.
Yep.
It's so simple, yet it's quite addictive to listen to.
Absolutely.
I love like the tone of it, and I'm a sucker for like a bit of brass instrumentation, which they have a bit more of that on Freaky Styley, which is nice.
It's very old school funk, that one,
Yes.
probably because George Clinton.
Yes, and it's cleaner to listen to. Not lyrically wise though. I was just going to say another thing that drags the album way down for me is way too much like sex obsessed and nonsensical lyrics.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just, it ain't working, man. I'm like, if you have one or two songs in it like that, then right, okay, but it just seems to be oversaturated.
Yeah.
Like if it's not about sex, it's kind of nonsensical, and I just don't.
I mean, 30 Birds is kind of a...
Yeah.
It's kind of an obvious one there for...
But at least for that one, it doesn't have the sin of taking up an entire song's time. You know what I mean? It's a little interlude, yeah. But yeah, I would say I agree with all that. But it's definitely better than the previous, than the debut.
Like something like Catholic Schoolgirls Rule. That's a hard song to listen to now. Like that's not good.
Yeah.
I think even, is it Battleship? I think the chorus of that song is just them screaming Blowjob Park, which is just
It's just going.
That kind of sums it up right
which
there.
is just like that. Like, write a chorus.
Yeah.
I mean, having said that,
I like, grow the fuck up, you're in your mid-20s, man.
I know. Having said that, the song is genuinely apparently about like a park that they all used to go to where they would get
Fellated.
Yeah, fellated. Yes. Yeah. But I agree with you guys, and I think it's a bit of progression, but we're not setting the world on fire yet.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you guys like Freaky Styley, but beyond Freaky Styley and their debut, I can enjoy these more. I can sit through them without cringing, you know.
Yeah, my top 11, I like every one of the albums after this.
Yeah.
After these two, yeah.
I'm gonna just go. It's chronological still at this point. It's Uplift, Mofo, which is quite a nice thing to see. Like they get better and better as the albums go on initially. But yeah, Uplift, Mofo, Party Plan, their third album. I think there's like I'd said about Hillel being back on the second one. Jack Irons is back on Uplift, Mofo, and that's the original four. And it's the only album that's got the original four as the lineup. And there's a rejuvenation in it, and there's they feel like they've got purpose and confidence that they didn't have. Well, funnily enough, with the lyrics on the first two albums, you would think they were full of confidence, but this album, it's like real confidence. It's not bravado that's not been earned. Right from that opening bit of Fight Like a Brave, like the roar that they do at the start of that, it's like we're here, we're full power now, and we know what we are and where we're going.
Yeah.
But not only that, so that they're playing stronger than they have before, but they're also starting to find light and shade. They're starting to find like a bit of beauty in the chaos, like something like Behind the Sun, which is, I don't know if it's the best song on the album, but it's the prettiest song that they've done by that point. But then you've got that right next to something like No Chump Love Sucker, which is vicious. So they're starting to be able to kind of, they're not just one speed. I think Uplift Mofo is them starting to come into their own.
Yeah, I'd agree about Behind the Sun being probably my favourite song on the album. And I think if you took the first 3 albums and put them all in one big playlist, I'd probably put Behind the Sun as the best track of those 3 albums.
Is Uplift Mofo your third as well? Yeah.
Big shock.
I think our order's all been the same so far. In chronological order.
But I think for me, Uplift Mofo Party Plan, especially I would say the second half of the album, it's got like Organic Anti-Beatbox Band and Walking On Down the Road are songs I always tend to go back to. There are still cringy ones though. I mean, dare we say it, Special Secret Song Inside?
Yep.
Yeah, that's still in there a little bit. I feel like it would hurt the YouTube algorithm if I said the actual title.
Yep.
I'll say one thing, right? For that song, although I've just talked about how the lyrics have been immature, if they were going to do that, that's like the best potential version of that style of song.
Yes.
Like, it's a more talented band doing a more
that's
immature song.
Like the closest to it being artistically valid.
Yes,
But still, maybe a wee bit away from that. But the closest that they're coming to being artistically valid on that style of song.
But I don't particularly like to listen to like Party On Your Two-Ha very often, right?
Yes.
But it's not a slog to get through it. It's quite amusing. It's almost like funny.
Yeah.
Like it gets to a point where like sometimes I listen to these like sex-crazed songs and it's not funny. It's like, oh god,
it's like,
stop!
You need help.
Yeah, you need help. Like fucking, what's wrong with you, man? But then it crosses a line at times, and I'm like, right, that's actually just funny.
Yeah.
But
it's like we're in on the joke.
Yeah, we're on the joke.
One. Yeah.
But I just feel like this is the band really starting to mature. Like this is the band really coming into their own. And I think I said to you before, this feels like a debut to me because it's all 4 of the original members.
Yep.
It's a band it feels like an album. It doesn't feel like just people jamming away and seeing what
sticks.
What sticks. Yeah, this actually seemed like they sat down and wrote songs, and some of them were good. Yeah. Behind the Sun is the best song on that album, I believe, and across the first 3 albums as well.
This is where I'm going to start to struggle. So this could change on a day-to-day basis, but I think I am just going to keep going chronologically and go straight into Mother's Milk, which was their 4th album and their first with John and Chad. Now, those 2 completely changed the band for me. They bring it, it's like a different band. Well, it's 2 different people in the band, but it's a completely different dynamic. John and Chad are so talented as musicians that they're still able to bring the funk, but they're heavier. And they're heavier and they're more melodic at the same time. But yeah, they're still building on that funk side of things. The Chili Peppers are always going to have that undercurrent of funk, but John and Chad are bringing a melodic element that hadn't been there before, and it feels like a natural progression. It's almost funny that it's a different lineup because it feels like the natural progression from Uplift, Mofo, Party Plan. It's a shame that Hillel had to die for that to happen, and it's almost a bittersweet album because we're now hearing a different vision of the band rather than I would love to have heard what Hillel would have gone on to do.
The other obvious thing with that album I feel is that it's so soon after, like it is like immediately after pretty much
the following year.
It's like a band pretty much grieving the loss of their guitarist and found a member. And they weren't just a band, they were really, really close, and you can feel something's changed.
Oh, and just incidentally, before I pass the buck on to Ross here, I think the best song on this album is probably a toss-up between Knock Me Down and Higher Ground. And that's saying something there. So they've got an incredible Stevie Wonder song there, which might take the cake for the best song on the album, incredible version of the song. And Knock Me Down standing right there, kind of going toe-to-toe with it. So they are coming into their own as musicians and as crafters of good quality music. There's still funny little detours here and there, but I think overall we're starting to get into a really good trajectory here. Yeah, that's my thoughts on Mother's Milk.
So I put Mother's Milk as the next one for me as well. To me, this is the last one where it goes in that chronological pattern. To me, this is when the Chili Peppers really were born. I would say this is like the first album with the definitive lineup, and for me, I'd say Chad's probably the MVP of this album. Like I always think of like drum beats being like the standout parts for me on this album, especially on Higher Ground, as you were saying. Like, to me, that's probably my favourite song as well. It feels like a stepping stone for finding the definitive sound I've got here, so you can really see where it kind of leads to the next album. And
Yeah. Well, it's 3 for 3 there, because Mother's Milk's also my next pick. But for a reason, like Anthony said correctly, it's the band's just getting progressively better and better and better. And I think we can all, at the very least, agree that goes up to at least Blood Sugar. But yeah, with Mother's Milk, they find their feet with John and Chad. Knock Me Down, I would probably agree, is the top one. And again, it's one of those ones where I forget how much of a contribution John makes, because he's not only playing, he's singing in that one as well.
Yeah.
And it's something I tend to forget sometimes. But even right from the start, again, with Good Time Boys, you can just hear that something's a bit different. Higher Ground is, of course, a great cover. And something like Pretty Little Ditty, a little instrumental, it's just the band's firing on all cylinders. I know it's an instrumental, right? But musically, it's a band that's definitely matured and changed.
Yep.
As somebody who plays bass, something like Nobody Weird Like Me stands out to me. That's just insane. Yeah, it's incredible. And that kind of song, it reminds me of the first 3 albums, like the intensity of it, but I feel like that's what the first 3 albums should have been, if you like.
Chili Peppers often get labelled a funk metal band. They've actually not got a lot of metal in what they do, but that is a funk metal song. That is the quintessential funk metal song, Nobody Weird Like Me. And I would say the Mother's Milk album in general is as close as they get to this hypothetical funk metal.
Yeah.
Because I think they actually clashed with the producer on this one, Michael Beinhorn, because he wanted a crushing metal sound, and I think they butted heads, but I think it sounds pretty good.
See, I was going to say something as well with that. I think the production of this is definitely heads button, and sometimes heads button can make something amazing.
Yep.
In this album, it's hit or miss for me. Sometimes it works, sometimes I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that said, it's a good album.
It's a good album, and the production on this album, I think, inspired the production on the following album, because they pulled it back.
I was going to say as well, I feel like this album walked so the subsequent album could run.
Exactly. Yes, which I'm sure we'll all get to eventually.
And that is all I have to say about that.
Yes. Yes. Right, we're back to me, aren't we?
Yeah.
This is the first one where I'm going to break with the chronological list that we've had going so far. So we've had the first 4 albums in a row so far, and I'm going to take it from 1989 right up to 2016. My next album that we're going to talk about is The Getaway. So what's this, number 5? I think The Getaway is a good album. I think it suffers from, which seems to actually, now that we're talking this out, seems to be quite a running theme with the Chili Peppers. They seem to have a habit of butting heads with producers that they've worked with. And I don't necessarily know that they butted heads with Danger Mouse, who produced The Getaway, but I think there's a clash of styles between the band and the producer on this one. That's going to come from the fact that they worked with Rick Rubin for 20 years plus before that. I think it becomes very clear there are great songs on The Getaway and great moments, which I'll go into in just a moment, but I think it becomes very clear when you're listening to it, the story that I heard when the album came out, which was that Danger Mouse told them to scrap everything they'd been working on, and they wrote the whole album in the studio. It's clearly an album that's been pieced together in the studio, like something like This Ticonderoga, which I love the heavy section of that song, and I've grown to like the whole song, but that song has just been stitched together of different sections that they've come up with in the studio. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course. Having said that, it's getting higher into their list, and we're very firmly into the stuff that I think we all enjoy by this point. A song like Dark Necessities, that can stand up against any of their best stuff. It's a shame we're never going to hear that live again. But yeah, that song, which was created with Josh in the band, that stands up with any of the work that they did with John, Dark Necessities, and I would even say that Encore does as well. Yeah, with the whole having written the album predominantly in the studio, I think it suffers from having quite a bit of filler in it. Very, very high highs, very well woven as it was done in the studio, but yeah, a bit of filler in there to pad out that run time. That's why it is where it is on my list.
Yeah. The funny thing, I thought we were actually going to divert here. I thought this was where our list was going to change.
No way.
Number 9's The Getaway for me.
Brilliant.
But I think this is probably the album that's gone up in estimation over the years for me. It's like when it first came out, I wasn't actually sure what to make of it. Like, I've always loved Dark Necessities. I've always loved Encore. Detroit, I've always thought was a really like cool, like Led Zeppelin style sound song. This Ticonderoga I've got here is one of my highlights as well. It's got a kind of heaviness to it. I think it's one of those albums that if you're in the right mood, it fits a bit more, because a lot of times I was thinking it was a bit too kind of like chilled out and there wasn't enough, kind of songs that were a bit higher tempo and stuff like that. But I feel like this album, if you're just in like a chilled out kind of mood, it's probably the go-to one.
I think both of Josh's albums, they're very much a vibe. Like, they've both got their own vibe.
Yeah.
Both of Josh's albums. But sorry, to interrupt.
That's fine. I've actually put Encore as my favourite as well. That's definitely, I think it's one of the most emotional songs.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Whenever I go to listen to this album, Encore's usually like my first port of call. So.
Nice. Well, I'll be the one to divert.
Hey.
not too much, but well, maybe. Well, I suppose we'll see. I can't say I've had a love-hate relationship with this album, because I've never loved it, but I love parts of it. But there's parts of it I really dislike. So my pick is One Hot Minute, actually. Alright, I feel bad in saying this. I feel a lot of this album feels quite phoned in to me, actually, for something that took 4 years pretty much in the making. I think Dave Navarro, that is, his inclusion on the album was, I think he did really well, but I think it was a mismatch. I think the Chili Peppers they've had a few mismatches with like guitarists before, whether they've appeared on albums or not, and I feel like Dave's was one. But I do like his part that he played in it. He always said he's not really much of like a funk guitarist, even though he has some really funky, contributions to this album, like some really funky things. It's a little bit at odds with Flea, whereas I feel like, for example, John and Flea have just got this kind of musical connection.
Yeah.
You feel it on this. I think you feel the kind of difference there. Great musician, but that bond's hard to replicate,
Yeah.
Not that they wanted to replicate it, but you know what I mean. It feels like an album with a side chick. Like that's how I feel about this album. Like, do you know where I'm coming from, though, right?
Yeah.
That said, Shall I Be Thy Game is epic. That's probably my favourite song on this album. My Friends is awesome as well. It's like, it's hard and soft at the same time. Exact same feeling with Tearjerker. It's like hard hitting, but it's quite sentimental as well. I love that song too. Again, it's kind of been hated on enough, but I don't really like the song P very much. I just feel like it's very, well, it's P,
Yeah. Yeah. You should not say it's piss.
No, it's P. Yeah.
There's kind of like goofiness to it that you can't really get behind.
Yeah, but I feel like there's too many weak links in the song, and there's a lot of it where they did a lot of experimenting on this album, and a lot of it just for me didn't pay off. So that's why One Hot Minute is here for me.
Well, I'm going to bring up the rear on that, because I'm just above The Getaway, but I'm going to go One Hot Minute as well.
I'm surprised.
Yeah. It's the only Dave Navarro album in the discography, and I'm kind of like piggybacking off Lewis here. I think losing John Frusciante after Blood Sugar Sex Magik, I think that hit the band really hard. And for all there are really good ideas on One Hot Minute, I think a lot of them get quite meandering. There's a lot of songs in that album that I think are like a minute, 2 minutes too long.
Yeah.
It's like they couldn't focus the energy that was coming into the band at that time.
Speaking of losing John, I just want to say as well, sorry to interrupt you, but just that between Blood Sugar and Californication, I wonder in a parallel like world what that could have been, what that album might have been if he were in the album, if he was the guitarist during that time.
Absolutely.
Anyway, yeah.
No, I agree. That would be a very interesting parallel universe, as you say.
There's a song coming on.
Not yet. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I think "Shall I Be Thy Game" is my favourite song on the album. I also really like "Falling Into Grace." And again, those are two of the slightly shorter songs in the album. They're focused to the point. They get in, they say what they need to say very well, and get out.
They get the fuck out of there.
Yeah. It's an interesting listen. It's it's like bridging the Jane's Addiction and Chili Peppers. There's like the dark psychedelia side that Navarro's obviously bringing in from Jane's Addiction. The Chili Peppers are trying to bring their funk side in, but it's muted somewhat, the funkiness. Trying to mesh those two together, and that's essentially what happens. They mesh those two together and see what happens. And that's what I'm saying. There's a slight lack of directness and focus to the songwriting in that album. And incidentally, I'm sure that was in the period where Anthony had relapsed and he was really struggling with songwriting at that point, and you can hear it. You can hear that he's struggling both emotionally and career-wise. He's struggling with what he does. But yeah, they made the best of a bad situation, and it's a good album. It's just not great.
Yeah, agree. Yeah.
Okay, number 8 for me, we're going to actually diverge a little bit here. Number 8 for me is actually I'm With You. Interesting to see where that ranks for you guys as well. But I think for me this is probably, of the two Josh albums, I think it's the better showcase for him. I think Did I Let You Know is one of my absolute favourites, and I think his vocals in the chorus really show like what a range he's got as a singer, as well as a great guitar player. And I think Brendan's Death Song is probably my favourite song of the Josh era. I think that's one of the most emotionally stirring songs. And then you've got stuff like Look Around and Adventures of Rain Dance Maggie, which still give you that kind of like funk style, and they're probably two of the more addictive songs on the album for me. And even some of the more experimental stuff like Ethiopia and Factory of Faith, I still find myself going back to those songs quite a lot. So
yeah, perfect, awesome. Right, well, again, to kind of go back, my next pick is The Getaway. I mean, it's quite, it's been fairly close here. Again, I've not got much to say on this that has not been said. Favourite songs in this one got to be like Goodbye Angels, Encore. They're really high highs for me. We spoke a little bit about This Ticonderoga. You're a fan of that song, I think. It's quite jarring to you.
I'm a fan of that song, but it took time for me to get there.
See, for me, I still think the change is bad. Not so much the change going in, the change coming back out.
Yeah.
It's just jarring to me. I'm like, that's not a transition, you know.
Yeah.
But there's, merits.
Like not every song can be Bohemian Rhapsody.
And I don't like collaborations, whatever aside. I don't like Sick Love. It's just not a song I've ever enjoyed.
It's like a less good Benny and the Jets.
Yeah, or the likes of Feasting on the Flowers or We Turn Red. Like, there's parts of the songs I like, but as a whole, I don't particularly enjoy all these songs. I mean, the Chili Peppers, when I think of my favourite Chili Peppers albums, I'm struggling to find songs I don't like. In this album, there's too many ones that I'm like, not keen on that. And again, just to reiterate what I was thinking as well, Danger Mouse. I like Danger Mouse. I like a lot of the things he's worked on. I would never have paired him with the Chili Peppers in a million years. So that's all I have to say about that album.
Cool. It's funny because we've diverged slightly, but we're all kind of in the same ballpark. So after One Hot Minute, I'm going with I'm With You. That was Josh's first outing with the band, and for all he's not got like the bombastic kind of I am the lead guitar player like John did, he's a very strong presence in that album, but he's a layer for the rest of the band to work off of, which I think is actually very, it shows quite a great humility in Josh as a musician, because he's crucial to that album, like the texture that he brings to it, and I think that's quite a refreshing thing. Like, he's not here saying I'm the statement piece. He's like, I'm a member of this band and I'm going to elevate the music with what I do. I think that they made some fantastic songs. And I think Police Station's a wonderful song. Brendan's Death Song, as Ross said, that's a very moving song. That song actually can, on the right day, that song can actually make me cry. I think what pulls that slightly back for me, it's funny because I've just complimented the texture that Josh creates on that. The textures that he creates are very of that time. It's very late noughties into the early 2010s.
Yeah, it's almost a gift and a curse that Josh seemed to have his finger on the pulse.
Yes, exactly. So I rate it very highly. I rate it very, very highly. I think Josh was very malleable, and something like, I remember when I first heard Monarchy of Roses, and I hear that kind of dark opening, and I'm like, this is very kind of One Hot Minute, and then he breaks through with something so chili peppery with the Several of My Best Friends bit, and I'm like, he's studied. He's like, I'm going to take what's good of every era of this band and make it my own.
Yeah.
So massive props to Josh. I don't think he gets half the praise that he deserves for what he did in the band.
And just on that topic as well, when you mentioned in the Unlimited Love ranking we did, you mentioned that the two Josh albums, that kind of his absence kind of deepens and enriches those two albums. They kind of go up in your estimation a bit more because of that. And
Yeah, so no, you're right. So once the two latest albums, Unlimited Love, Dream Canteen, when they came out, for all I loved them, I was like, there is a Josh-shaped hole here.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how those two albums have kind of evolved over time. That's always been, that's something I mentioned in my notes as well, how those two kind of changed over time for me. Number 7, we're not changing too much. Number 7 for me is One Hot Minute, but I feel like this is probably their most underappreciated album. This is the first album on the list I would say I absolutely love pretty much every song on here. To me, it's the punchiest Chili Peppers album. The intro to Shall Be Thy Game, that part when the guitar and drums come in, I think it's a lot of songs you talk about being like a punch to the gut. This one, it's like a haymaker to the face when that song starts. I put for My Friends and Tearjerker, I would say are actually two of their best ballads. And I think the kind of guitar solo in the middle of My Friends is actually one of my favourite solos, like from a non-John album, definitely probably up there for me. And then you've got stuff like Deep Kick and One Big Mob that have got that kind of, they've got again kind of like word salad lyrics to an extent, but they're still so much fun that you can't help but sing along. And the first minute of One Big Mob especially, I always find myself like replaying constantly. So yeah, I've always and even as you were talking about like punchier songs like Warped as well, it's got that kind of, you start out and you're thinking, is this going like a psychedelic kind of vibe or whatever, and then about 45 seconds in you're like, no, there's the regular Chili Peppers sound, there's what we know and love. So yeah, I've always absolutely loved One Hot Minute, and that's my number 7.
Nice. Perfect. My next pick is Unlimited Love, and I've got a strange relationship with this album because this is one of these albums where I definitely listened to this album more than any other in 2022 on its year of release. I would drive to work and back and all around because I would drive a lot the place I was working at the time, and this album was on constantly. It never failed to keep my attention. It always had me invested. Standout songs from this album, The Heavy Wing. If you've watched our video, you know we all liked that song. I mean, we certainly did a few years ago anyway. I still love that song. White Braids and Pillow Chair, Great Apes. There's lots of really strong songs in this album. There's a couple of weak links as well, such as Veronica, I would probably say especially, Poster Child, Let Them Cry. I've never particularly liked any of those songs. Don't hate them, don't dislike them, just never particularly liked them. But yeah, just the album itself, it's a really, really solid album. Like there's only a few, like 2 or 3 songs where I don't absolutely love them. And on an album that's got 17 tracks, you're doing alright. So yeah, that's all I can really say about Unlimited Love. It's a really, really solid album.
Yep.
And probably pretty much right in the middle.
I'm right next to you there. Unlimited Love is my next pick as well. That album, I was so excited for that album coming out because we got the announcement at the end of 2019 that John was coming back, and it didn't come out until 2022, probably thanks to the global event. But but when the album came out, I listened to it in its entirety, literally the day that it came out. Went into town, bought the album itself so that I had it, put it into my CD player, and listened to it front to back, and remember loving it immediately. We'd heard Black Summer, which I had enjoyed when it came out, but we'd then got a couple of songs that I wasn't all that keen on. We'd got Not the One and Poster Child, both of which had us worried, 2 of us.
We were sat listening to it in the kitchen of Not the One,
and
I remember us saying we were just waiting on something interesting to happen, and it just...
Now, I'm not going to say that either of those 2 songs are my favourite on the album, because they're not, and they never will be, but they do act as nice ebb and flow on the album. I do think the album might be a tad long. I think we could have done with a song or 2 getting cut, but maybe it was done that way on purpose, because by the time you get to the Heavy Wing and that kicks in, the whole album it's like that's worth the price of admission. The Heavy Wing. Again, it's hard to relate to you now with it being so many years removed, but having John back in the band and having him front and centre singing and leading that song was really, really emotional. As somebody that's been a fan of the band since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, as they say, like that was an incredible experience, and I listened to that alone in my kitchen, and it was like I wanted somebody to be there so that I could like shake them and be like, this is it, this is happening. And that's like that's what music's all about. So like for that alone, that album has to be, you know, we're already past the halfway point. So even if the rest of the album had been weak, and it's not, there are great songs in that album, and John Frusciante was a welcome return for all that Josh had done incredibly well in the band. It was nice to see John take the spotlight on some of the songs, although a bit of maturity over the years. He's really gotten better and better and better at being the support for Flea. Yeah, he's a very well-rounded musician on that album, and the band are firing on all cylinders on Unlimited Love. So that takes my pick for that spot.
Number 6 for me is going to be a slight deviation again. It's Return of the Dream Canteen. This one I mentioned in the actual Dream Canteen video we did, that of the two albums I slightly preferred Unlimited Love because I felt like there was no song on that album that I disliked, whereas this album has My Cigarette. So, you know.
This album has My Cigarette.
You know.
Give it back!
Yeah. The less said about that song, the better. You do have songs on here that I've always absolutely loved, like Tip of My Tongue was a really solid lead single. Reach Out has always been one of my favourites. I've always loved, again, the kind of punchiness to the chorus on that one. Eddie, I think's an absolutely incredible like tribute to Eddie Van Halen with one of John's, you know, Lewis mentioned that the song maybe depends on it a bit too much, but I've always found it, like, I've totally welcomed the like kind of 2 minute.
And that's the point.
Yeah, that's kind of and like you mentioned in the video as well, it kind of serves the purpose of the song because it was about Eddie.
Yeah, and I get that, and I respect that.
You know, Bag of Grins being our favourite on the album, like all three of us put that at number 1 for good reason, because the song has that very kind of, as you mentioned, off kilter kind of feel to it, and then by the end of it, it all, you know, it all makes sense, and it all kind of, it might feel a bit strange at first, but you're like, oh, that it was building to this, it all kind of, you know, came together really well.
Yeah.
After Unlimited Love, these two kind of could be seen together, like came out the same year. Return of the Dream Canteen. Any given day, these two could swap places for me because I enjoy both of them on a very similar level, and they are very similar albums in a lot of ways. I would actually say Return of the Dream Canteen feels a little more scattered, but also a little more experimental. But I appreciate that. I appreciate a bit more variety and, you know, taking risks, especially when they pay off, like they do here. A song like Copper Belly, I've never enjoyed. My Cigarette, I mean, it's never really grown on me personally. I don't know about you guys.
I actively avoid it. So
yeah, I never think, oh, I'm going to go and listen to My Cigarette now. And the same I will say for Copper Belly. I just don't really like that song, and I never really have. There's some more middling songs in it, and by middling I do mean good. I just don't mean like amazing, you know. But the highs are extremely high. Like Carry Me Home remains such a high for me for that album. Bag of Grins as well, obviously would put that as our number 1 when we did that video. In the Snow, I still listen to that song like on the regular. But yeah, I do today prefer it to Unlimited Love, and that's why it's my pick.
I'm coming right back with that as well. After Unlimited Love, I would go for Return of the Dream Canteen as well. I kind of take them both as like a package deal because they both came out in such close proximity. They were clearly recorded at the same time. I think that Unlimited Love might be the more cohesive album, but I do think Return of the Dream Canteen's got a bit more in the way, as you say, a bit more in the way of experimentation. There are higher highs, with the exception of the Heavy Wing. But you've got tracks like Bag of Grins, which is still a track that I keep coming back to because it's still every bit as inscrutable 3 years later as it was the first time I heard it. But then you've also got really, really beautiful tracks like In the Snow, like La 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 La. And My Cigarette has actually really grown on me, strangely enough. Yeah. So I think just it rewards repeated listening, Return of the Dream Canteen, slightly more so than Unlimited Love.
Number 5 for me is actually Unlimited Love, and I mentioned in the last video that it was like a razor thin difference for me, and I think the Heavy Wing kind of tips the scale for that. To me, that's the main reason that I prefer that album overall, because there's no song in Unlimited Love that I actively dislike, and Black Summer's actually been one of my favourite singles to go back to, and it's always, you know, a song that has that very much punch in the gut feeling when it gets to the final chorus when the instruments cut out for a few seconds and then just comes back in. It's, yeah, again, it reminds me of One Hot Minute the way that's done. So yeah, number 5, Unlimited Love for me.
Perfect. And my next pick is I'm With You. Now I'm With You I've really toyed with for a while because initially I wasn't really too keen on it, and again I think it was more of like a kind of recency bias, but like lack thereof. And it was the fact as well I was so used to having John in the band that when he left, I couldn't face anybody else being in the band, because it's one thing when he leaves and Dave joins the band before I'm born, but when I've been an active fan of the band, and the Chili Peppers are Anthony, Flea, Chad, and John, as far as I'm concerned, as far as what I've grown up with, so I just couldn't face it. And I said to you before, it was like when a new Doctor comes in Doctor Who, and you're so used to it, grown up with it for years, and then it gets changed, you can't really face it. So sometimes you have to go away, come back, and I think I said to you before, after 10 years, you've got enough time to really process that. And nowadays, I see the Getaway as still a good but a lesser album than I'm With You. So yeah, that's why I think I'm With You's slightly higher. We've already spoke about the songs, but Police Station, Monarchy of Roses, Meet Me at the Corner, weak points for me, Dance Dance Dance, didn't really like that to begin with, and I still don't really like it now, and even You Brutus has really grown on me over the years. Yeah,
nice. I will say, having spoken about I'm With You myself, I think it could quite easily go higher in my ratings, and hearing you speak about it as well. Yeah. I think it's a very underappreciated album.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we're moving on now into the upper echelons of the list of albums. We're really getting into peak Peppers.
Top tier.
Yeah. With that being said, number 4 for me is Stadium Arcadium. This is an incredible example of a band at the peak of their powers. Like, they are incredible at this point and they know it.
Mm.
And they're going with it, like they're firing on all cylinders, even to the point of excess. At this point. Obviously, Stadium Arcadium is a double album. It's got so much incredible material on it, but there is the slightest little bit of bloat on the album. That is my only criticism. I think, having said that, it's hard because I'm like, could it be whittled down to one incredible single album? But I think we'd be missing out on great songs, so I can see why they did it, so I can't really knock it for that. But it could have maybe been 2 10-track albums or something like that. Yeah. I don't know what tracks I'd necessarily get rid of. Yeah. There are ones, I don't know, 21st Century is not my favourite, Warlocks is not my favourite, but there are so many great songs. Wet Sand will just rip your heart out listening to that song, and it's such an incredible song. It's technically a deep cut, it was never a single, but they still play that at their stadium gigs and it gets a huge response because it's an incredible song. It's become a fan favourite, essentially. I've always had a soft spot for Animal Bar. I think that's an incredible song. Ready Made, the band just straight up rocking out. There's so much variety on Stadium Arcadium, it's so good. And I think it was one of the first albums where John just allowed himself to be to show his virtuosity.
We'll go for that.
Yeah. And I think it's very welcome hearing John kind of flex a wee bit on that album.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 4 for me, we might deviate a little bit here, but Blood Sugar Sex Magic I would say is number 4 for me.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Yeah.
It's I'd say it's definitely their most important album. It's the one that really kind of launched them into the stratosphere. Under the Bridge is probably, the song that really made them what they are today. Getaway is probably my favourite still. It's the song that, in a live setting, I would say it's actually got an even, it's added that extra layer to it.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, just the fact that you said about a song that made them what they are today.
Yeah. Hashtag B-side.
Yep.
Mother's Milk.
This is where it starts to get really difficult. For me, I would say number 4 is Stadium Arcadium. There's very many high highs and not very many low lows. There's a couple of songs that are a bit more middling again, but on an album where you've got 28 songs, if all you've got is a few middle of the road songs and the rest of them are bangers, you're laughing. You've got Wet Sand, especially Michigan. She's only 18. Turn It Again, Desecration Smile, like they're top Chili Peppers songs in my book. I always struggle to choose between like Wet Sand and especially Michigan. And then I remember that Turn It Again's on the album as well because it's hidden away at the back of the second half. Great album. I don't think it's the best album in the world, but I think I think if they'd made it, like if they'd taken all the best of this album and then shortened it down to like one single full-length album, it very well might have been their best collection of songs. But yeah, that's why Staying in Arcadium's where it is. Yeah.
For me, number three is Californication. Californication, I think, is a very special album because it's the album where John came back for the first time. We didn't know it was going to be, there was going to be more times. But John came back to the band and he completely rejuvenated the band. As we'd spoken about, One Hot Minute saw them kind of in the mire, kind of not growing as musicians, as friends even at the time, according to what we know. John obviously was going through his own personal difficulties and addictions and things like that, and it was like the perfect timing. It was like the right album at the right time with the right people, the right songs. Even the B-sides of Californication are incredible, but you've got the front half of the album is perfection of Californication. Around the World, Parallel Universe, Scar Tissue, Other Side, it's banger after banger on Californication. It slows down in the middle, but it's a welcome kind of like taking a breath to take you into the last leg of the album. I just think the chemistry that John and Flea have spoken about so often, and the chemistry of all four of them is on such display on that album. It's like none of them are taking over. It's like the perfect balance between the four of them on Californication. And I think that, along with the fact that the songwriting is just incredible, is why it is where it is.
So, funny you mention Californication's at number 3 because that's my number 3 as well. I'd say it's probably, of the Chili Peppers albums, it's probably one of the more accessible ones. Like if you're someone that's never listened to the band before, it's probably one of the go-to ones that I would recommend. The title track used to actually be my favourite Chili Peppers song of all time. It's still one of them, but there are a few that have dethroned it over the years. My favourite track on this album now is actually Easily. That's one that I feel like is... it doesn't really get enough recognition, I think. I mean, you've still got, as Anthony mentioned, Around the World, Parallel Universe, that first half of the album, hit after hit. And then, as I say, we've got the songs like Porcelain and Emmett Remus that kind of dial it back a little bit. Then it kicks back in with stuff like I Like Dirt. And then the only songs on the album that I particularly would say I'm not too keen on, there's really only one that I don't really find myself revisiting is Right on Time. But besides that, I think the album's almost perfect in my eyes, and that's why it's so high up on the list for me.
Yeah.
For me, that album would be perfect if you replace Road Trip, and although it's a good song, with Quixotic Elixir.
Yeah,
that would be the perfect outro.
Mm-hmm.
And funny you and you say that's number 3 because it's also number 3 for me.
Right.
Yeah. Right, okay, so I've got a few things to say about this album.
Thought you might.
And it's funny you say as well about Right on Time as well, because I actually love that song.
Same.
And I think it's one of the highlights of that album.
Do you know what it reminds me of, if I can just intercede there? Donna Summer's I Feel Love.
It's very much got the same vibe as that.
Yeah.
Continue.
And it's the it's the bass running it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now with that album, again, it's hard to find tracks that I don't love on this album, but I would actually say, me personally, I Like Dirt, I feel is quite a low point of that album, and it's not a bad song, but it's a low point of Californication level standards.
Yeah.
And which is why I'm quite gutted that that's one of the songs that they played when we went to go and see them in 2023.
Yep.
Because I was like, you could have had Other Side, you could have had like all these big songs, and I'm like, why would you not put those instead? But that said, it's still a good song and it's still a good album. The only one thing I wanted to say about this album is, and it's obviously a top 3, very much an album I love, the production suffers in some ways. The over distortion, the over loudness.
Yeah, it's a very, very noisy album, yeah.
It's a very noisy album, and you hear guitars distorting, and I don't mean distorting like
Pleasantly.
I mean crackling your speakers
Yeah.
when they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It feels like a fault in the mix almost.
Yes,
when it sounds,
it is a mixing problem, and that's something that really irks me a little bit. But that said, that's my only real gripe with this album, and that's why it's at number 3.
Nice. I think we're all going to have the same top 2, but we're not.
You're
We're
right.
not.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, top 2. So number 2 for me is Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Blood Sugar Sex Magic is almost like so how we talked at the start of the video about how they improved. Blood Sugar Sex Magic is like a quantum leap of improvement from the first 4 albums. It's a ridiculous amount of improvement in song quality, songwriting, the production, the crafting of the songs, just everything about Blood Sugar Sex Magik. There are so few low points on that. The only song that I would have as a quote unquote low point is the greeting song. Everything else is gold. Even I think they're red hot. It's almost like a footnote on the album. It's like they've just done this big magnum opus and they've said, here you go. It's like Her Majesty at the end of Abbey Road with the Beatles. It's just a quick little boop, we're out. But I have to have this album really high because there's a song in it's the title track, Blood Sugar Sex Magik, is the reason that I picked up a guitar for the first time. I heard that song on a Chili Peppers documentary at my Auntie Jean's house when I was a young boy. Heard that sound, didn't know what it was or how to do it, but just thought, I guess I need a guitar because I need to know how to do that. I'm not saying it happened quickly, but I knew that I would need to be able to replicate that myself. So that song I can pinpoint is the reason that I play guitar. So it's a very important album for the Chili Peppers. It's a very important album for me as personally, as a musician. And it's all these albums to a degree. We always used to have these albums playing on CD in the background while we played PlayStation. So it's all kind of linked in my brain. It's like this album goes with this PlayStation game and so on and so forth. And Blood Sugar Sex Magik, it's a soundtrack to my early life. As are all of these albums, but Blood Sugar Sex Magik is fantastic and could easily be at the top spot on a different day.
Yeah, perfect. Would you say that Tony Hawk is a big or a big reason why? Because Pro Skater 3 has Fight Like a Brave,
Does
Underground 2 has Power of Equality. So yeah, it's one of our favourite franchises, and that's always been
absolutely.
We've
always been linked.
A lot of association there. Yeah. Number 2 for me. This would have been number 1, but it just barely missed out on the top spot, and that's Stadium Arcadium. If disc 1 had some of the better songs from disc 2 and they kind of cut it down a little bit, this would actually be my favourite of theirs. Wet Sand, I would say, is actually my favourite Chili Pepper song of all time. I know that's a bold statement, but I think it definitely is up there for me. Danny California, I think, is actually probably my favourite single that they've ever released. Snow isn't too far behind it. Snow's definitely up there for me. You've got songs like Hump the Bump that still keep the kind of, that funk style. The title track, Stadium Arcadium, I think of all the title tracks they've done, is actually probably my favourite of them as well. I think that's one of the most beautiful songs they've ever written. There are still highlights on this too, we've got stuff like Hard to Concentrate and Tell Me Baby. But yeah, I feel like it does have a little bit of bloat here and there, but not too much to where it is still definitely top 2 for me, but just barely misses it in the top spot. I wanted to put it at number 1 for a long time, but it's just barely missed it for me. So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2 for me, and yeah, I've got a feeling things are really. I think our list's very similar, especially the top picks, because my number 2 is also Blood Sugar Sex Magik.
Do you wonder what number 1 is?
It's happened again.
Was your Stadium Californication Blood Sugar?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right.
I swear to God, we haven't collaborated on these lists.
No, we went in totally blind.
Totally
right?
genuine, yeah.
But yeah, Blood Sugar Sex Magik. What can I say that you've not already said? For all these things in my notes, I've put weak points and strong points, like weak songs, strong songs. Weak songs, I was really struggling to think of one, and again I said probably the greeting song if I had to choose one. But again, it's not a bad song. It's not a bad song. The production, like you say, is a huge step up. Like, it is leaps and bounds. Like, I feel like the Chili Peppers have changed maybe 2 or 3 times in their career, like in a big way, but none more so than this. See, from the 80s into the 90s, it was like a whole other band. For 2 years of a time difference, without a lineup change, the change is extremely...
I was going to say, the irony is that there was no lineup change and it's the biggest jump.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. Production just goes through the roof in quality. Along with it, so does their ability, and so does... I've got to say, this is where Anthony came along the strongest. I think he really came into his own here. He didn't suddenly turn into somebody else, but he just honed his craft.
Yep.
Something like I Could Have Lied is just a beautiful song. Vocals as well as like the instrumentation, the guitar on that, it's just, I can feel that guitar, My favourite song on this album, it changes a lot, but Right now, I've got to say it's probably The Power of Quality. I love that song.
It's a good pick.
I feel like it's so like, oh, I've got a message, but like the delivery of it is so like, I can't help but love it.
It's infectious. Is
It's infectious.
But
Yeah.
it's almost like it's like a manifesto. It's like we're here and this is
Yeah,
who we are.
absolutely, yeah. It's just it's them being bold and confident without being
arrogant.
arrogant. Yeah,
Like confident in your ability.
absolutely. So,
Because you are good.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all I can really say that hasn't been said already. Just it's an incredible album. It's a long album that doesn't feel like a long album as well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Right? This is getting beyond the joke because this is 3 Chili Peppers things we've done over the course of almost 4 years, and it looks like we've all got the same top spot again.
We do indeed.
is it maybe just the fact that we're really good at this, and this is actually just the best album?
Well, yeah. So I mean, I think we just do what we did with all the other ones. I say we've all got the top spot of By the Way.
Yes.
So By the Way is all 3 of us. That's our favourite Red Hot Chili Peppers album. I'm not going to say too much about this album. I think this album is as close to a perfect collection of songs as the Chili Peppers have ever done. There's not a single skip on this album for me. And again, by this point the production was incredible, and I think they've had some gripes about it themselves. I love the production on By the Way. It's so lush but not sterile.
Yep.
Which is a hard balance because in 2022 with Unlimited Love and Dream Canteen, great production, but it's very modern sheen.
Yes,
By the Way sounds timeless.
I
To
agree with
me.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by all means jump in.
Yeah, it's got that kind of summer feeling to me. It's almost
Yeah.
like a Sum 41 album the way it sounds. It's just got that kind of like happy, like upbeat sound to it. I think Minor Thing is probably the biggest example of that for me. That's definitely my favourite song on the album. Venice Queen's very high up there for me as well. Universally Speaking always puts me in a good mood. Midnight I would say is one of my absolute like highlights for me as well. Dozed, absolutely like one of the best choruses of their entire career. The kind of combination of Anthony and John, you know, kind of like how Heavy Wing was as well. So
It's like the more you go through the album, you're like, oh, and this is my favourite. Oh, and that's my favourite. So yeah, I think as we've said, kind of like from front to back, there's no weak points. I think this represents the peak of the Chili Peppers songwriting prowess.
I've put in my notes as well. It is peak Red Hot Chili Peppers, even if it's not like maybe like quintessential Chili Peppers. It is their highest high.
Yep.
I'd say
By
so
the Way,
on the same lines as like when Green Day did American Idiot. It's like they're never gonna top that. You know, that's my personal favourite. So
Yeah, and I was saying as well, just the fact that the songs in this album, I kept trying to pick favourites, and I was going to pick a few, and then I ended up picking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, I was like, it's getting beyond a joke now. I was like, we've got Doors, Don't Forget Me, Zephyr Song, Minor Thing, Can't Stop, Venice Queen, all incredible songs. And my lesser pick, or my least favourite on it pick, from the video that we did a while back, was Cabron, which is also a bloody banger.
Yeah,
It's,
that's like the quote unquote least good song in the album is still brilliant.
It is. It's still amazing. Like someone could say Cabron's my favourite Chili Peppers song, and I'd be like, cool.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. And yeah, you saw it coming a mile away if you'd seen our previous video that we'd done on talking about By the Way ranking. And I just said that it's my favourite Chili Peppers album because, of course, it is.
Yeah. I think each of these, particularly the upper echelon albums, these are all albums that all 3 of us, these are like etched into our like core memories.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have probably a bit of bias towards them. Like I'm very aware of that, but who cares really? If it makes you feel a certain way, then why question that?
For me, By the Way, is right on the edge of like the mythology thing of like I remember Stadium Arcadium coming out and Anthony being excited about it in 2006. But By the Way, that's just behind that for like
that's
the
first
mythology
one.
for
That's
me.
the first one I remember.
Yeah.
coming out.
See, for me, By the Way, like I've never lived in a world where By the Way didn't exist in my own perception. As much as I was like, you know, like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, just for me, it's their most timeless work, and I know that Blood Sugar Sex Magic might go down in history as their album, like the Chili Peppers album, but this is their highest high for me.
Yeah, it's a more satisfying listen. This
Absolutely. And this is a band they've gone on a journey. They've really matured. Like you listen to this album, then you go back and listen to their debut, and you're like, no
That's
way,
a
that's the
different
same band. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not the same band, not really.
True.
Like, they've got the same name and all that, but they've changed so much.
Yeah.
And for the better.
I completely agree. I can't believe that we're all in agreement again. I say I can't believe it, I kind of can, because we've all just discussed how it is their best album in our mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it happens again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable.
Question.
Yeah, if you got any questions, anything you want us to cover, please do let us know.
Yeah. There you go, you got your Chili Peppers album rankings, and you can tell us in the comments how wrong we are.
But we're not.
But we're actually not, yeah, we all agreed, so you're all just wrong.
Yeah.
Well, on that note,
Yes, thanks guys.
pleasure as always.
Yes.
That was fun. That was fun. Oh yeah, it stayed on. Oh,